Good morning, X Winterview, back again with another brief dialogue for his dear friend Annastacey. Once again, I'm driving to work. Apologies for the car noise, the revving. It's a beautiful sunny morning. Had a good breakfast. Everything's pretty good so far. But for many people out there listening, life is not so good. And so I thought I'd do a little dialogue on feeling bad. This is probably in no way related to enlightenment, liberation, etc. But then ask yourself this: what is? So on with the show. How to feel bad. A crash course. Feeling bad 101. There's many different ways to feel bad. One could place their open palm on the hot element of an oven, of a stove, of a cooktop, burn it, and think, why did I do that? Well, that was pretty stupid. One could gamble all their money away. One could drink themselves into oblivion every other night. One could have poor quality relationships with others. People don't like you. You never get invited anywhere. And when you do talk to people, they're always irritated at you. And so on. Many wonderful ways. But I thought I would focus in on a way that's perhaps a little closer to the heart of the problem of seeking for the spiritual aspirant. The mind is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I don't even know what it is. It's just the mind. It creates things out of nothing. It registers the world as a thing, an object out there, all around us. I live in the world. I live on a planet. I live in a universe. These are taken for granted as if they're real, as if they really exist. But all we know of them are our thoughts, are our ideas about them. That's all we will ever know. Without the thoughts or the ideas or the concepts, all we have is a perception of something. But we couldn't really say what. There might be emotional responses to the something. A wild dog could elicit a particular feeling in the body. Not that we would know what a body is without thought. Not that we would know even a wild dog. But the body would certainly respond to threat. Similarly, pleasure. We would find sweet berries growing on a bush in the wilderness. Eating them, we would feel some kind of pleasure response. Yum, sugar. And that kind of thing. Not that we would know, again, what sugar or berries, etc. are, without our thoughts, etc. about them. When we drill down into the direct experience of our life, we find, and I've said this before many a time, we find that the world dissolves. It's very hard to get a grasp on it. It's very hard to know what it is, in fact. And when we drill down to the deepest recesses of our world, and this is just a scientific perspective, the scientists get a bit confused. They don't really know what's going on down at the deepest level. It seems that, to their surprise, that nothing is going on at the most fundamental level of subatomic physics. Nothing at all. Anyway, when we zoom out on our world as well, we we again lose perspective in the same way. Everything shrinks and shrinks and shrinks until it's meaningless. So in this brief life that we have, seemingly, there's a spectrum of awareness that we can perceive our world, and within that spectrum we think there are objects all around that make up a world. The fundamental object, of course, is the self, the I, the me, the person, the individual. This is the core object of conceptualization. The object, me or I, person, X in the present case, for example, it's not a benign object. The object is imbued. Great word, that. It's like saying it. Imbued. It is imbued with qualities, characteristics, traits, or traits. What kind of characteristics / qualities / traits or traits would a character like to have? What would you, the individual object listening to this right now, what would you like to have? I bet I can guess a few. They're kind of universal. You'd like to be healthy. Check. You'd like to be seen as a reasonable person, perhaps. A nice person. A generous person. What about a person of importance? Wouldn't that be a little bit nice? What about a person of charisma, magnetism? Everyone wants to be around you. Everyone loves you. To be beloved. Beloved, probably a better way of saying that. Beloved. Not a great way of saying that. What about a life full of meaning? I have purpose. I have meaning. I'm on my special journey. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great to be on your special journey? Wouldn't it be great to live your life's special purpose? That somehow God has carved a little space out just for you. And you will live out this special little purpose in God's plan. Then God will smile upon you somehow. Wouldn't it be great to be just favoured by God in general? It'd be nice, wouldn't it? All these stories are the stories of humanity, the stories of personkind. These are the stories that run and fuel our civilization in a way. If you look into the media on any given day, the news on TV or newspapers, magazines, etc., they're full of the hopes and dreams of the person, and the stories of loss are the opposite. The people who have lost the dream of what their life was supposed to be about. The person who got married to discover that their partner had had an affair, or had tragically died on their way to the wedding. The person who won the lottery and then lost it all through foolishness. The person who made a scientific discovery of immense scientific magnitude that changed the course of some obscure branch of science that we are assured by the media is very important. The person who was down and out, living on the street, and then decided they've got to get their act together, got a job, shaved, stopped drinking, stopped sinning, became a multi-millionaire in the .com industry, something like that. They found their life's purpose. They made it, you could say. The sports team who, after years of languishing at the bottom of the table, found inner strength and hope and resilience, etc., to overcome adversity and win the championship for the first time in 50 years. Another wonderful story. So our lives, it seems, are filled endlessly with these wonderful or tragic stories in equal measure. If you read the newspaper, you'd believe it's all negative, but I can assure you there's a lot of positive stories out there. But then it comes to this whole enlightenment thing, this enlightenment game, and all those wonderful stories suddenly become meaningless. They become meaningless not because there's anything inherently wrong with those stories. On the contrary, they're wonderful, but it's suddenly realized, at least if you delve into this subject with a little bit of depth, that there's a kind of rotten core, you could say. Maybe that's a bit harsh. Rotten core at the center, and that is that there is no person in the middle, no center to any of those stories. No one is having those stories at all. But as long as there is believed to be a person, there's hope. The person lives in a constant state of hope. The hope is that one day that my life will get a bit better, or a lot better, or I'll finally make it. I'll finally find the secret thing that I've been missing all these years. That is the core hope for the apparent individual. And so their life is always flavored with that little tinge of hope through every endeavor, through every thought even. I hope this gets better. I hope this works out. I hope this happiness lasts that I've got a little bit of today. I hope it keeps going, because if it doesn't, it means I'm going backwards. I'm losing hope, and so on. But the message, the core communication of enlightenment, non-duality, etc., is that it's hopeless. It's utterly hopeless. Not because it's a negative message. On the contrary, the message is somewhat incredibly wonderful, but it's not for anybody. There's no enlightenment for a person. The liberation, you could say, is liberation from the person, from the imagined identity. So getting back to the starting point of this dialogue, it was wondered how to feel bad. Well, it's very simple, really, now that I've gone on and explained all that stuff. Think about something that is hoped for the individual. It could be anything. It could be weight loss. It's a very, very common endeavor in our culture. Weight loss is tied into the greater subject of beauty. And beauty is tied into the more broader subject of acceptance. Acceptance of yourself because you feel beautiful, and acceptance by others because you are beautiful. There's probably another layer down there, but let's just stick with that. So if I can become beautiful, or if I can at least see myself as beautiful, then I feel better, I feel good, I feel like I'm on my way, so to speak, that my life is improving, that I'm getting ahead. All these wonderful feelings will pour into the system, not for very long, mind you, but that's not recognized by most people. It doesn't last. So if I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling a bit, not great. Let's say you wake up and have a bit of a flat start to the day, and you decide, you know what, I just can't follow the diet this morning. I'm going to have a little bit of a splurge, just a treat, because I I've been so good lately. So I have a couple of pancakes and a cup of coffee with cream, and then maybe a donut chaser, and I feel a little pang of guilt. But then as I'm eating, I'm thinking, oh, this is wonderful, and my mind starts telling me little wonderful stories of it's okay and don't worry and you can work this off later, and you can go back to your diet tomorrow, and all those stories some of you out there might be familiar with. But there's a sort of breaking of one's heart in a way deep down. There's a knowing that I've just failed. I've just given in to a temptation and failed. And then I stand on the bathroom scale and my worst fears are confirmed. I've put on a pound. I've put on some grams. I don't know what a pound is. 2.2 kilos, I think. I put on 2.2 kilos. Damn it. And now, here comes the misery. Here comes the misery. I feel bad. I feel guilty. I feel fat. I feel ugly. I feel awful. Which is, in essence, I'm unacceptable. People won't love me. People won't like me. I can't love myself. I can't love this fat blob looking at me in the mirror, this awful blobby character. I just can't love it. It's disgusting. I have to redouble my efforts now I'm going to go for a jog right now. That's it. What am I doing? In essence, I'm running away my unpleasantness. I'm running towards my happiness, in essence. And that is the basic, fundamental cycle, extrapolating out to all concepts of how to feel miserable, or how the individual manages to feel miserable day in and day out. Now, weight loss is only one particular domain of humanness. Relationships is another big one, another biggie. Employment, another biggie. Money and status, another biggie. Well, these are the big ones. Sexual potency, probably the biggest, possibly. Probably relates to attractiveness in some way as well. Some people live in very religious style communities, and their religion is a big part of their religious standing, religiosity, their piousness. I'm very pious, I'm very generous, and if I'm not, then I'm a failure of some kind. But all these stories are natural in a way. They're not a problem. They're not a problem, but they can be examined too. There's an intelligence, maybe not for the individual, but there is an intelligence that can look at them, can look at these stories in some way, can put them under the microscope a little bit. Changing your stories, though, let's be very clear, changing your stories will not somehow trigger the mystical, magical state of enlightenment. That is just another story. In the many, I'm now on my way to enlightenment, is the story. I'll get there one day. I will succeed in that endeavor. If I feel bad, I must be failing at enlightenment, and all that sort of stuff. But it can have an effect on the emotional quality of one's life, to have a little look. And I guess that's all we're suggesting here today. To have a little emotional shift in the quality of one's life could be a nice thing. Why not? Because X Winterview is a pious and generous, loving being. He is bringing this message of love and peace and harmony to all mankind, because he is perhaps a messiah of some kind. Hope you can hear the sarcasm in my voice. I'll be worried if you can't. So, what can we do to have a little bit of an emotional shift of some kind, a little bit of a feel-good? As these feelings arise, and they certainly will, mark my words, we can always have a look at the presumptions that are going on, the sort of core presumptions. We can ask ourselves in any moment of the emotional pain, what am I believing is true? What am I striving towards that I'm not quite hitting today that's making me feel bad? What is the core concept even that I have for this self, that I need this self to be, otherwise I'll feel bad about myself? Can I let that go? Why am I even afraid to let that go? Why am I afraid to let the core concept go? What am I afraid that people might discover about me? What am I afraid that I'll even discover about myself? What stories am I using to bolster the sense of identity and self that I feel are very important? Can I learn to tolerate my life without that story? And if you want a very simple technique, and this again is just a technique for emotional relief of some kind, is to gradually expose yourself, gradually tolerate living with the parts that you feel a bit ashamed of or a bit uncomfortable about. Perhaps, to choose a very, very simple example, perhaps you're someone that needs to look amazing every time you leave the house. You have to put on your best clothes. If you're a makeup wearing individual, maybe you need to slather yourself in layers of makeup and whatnot, drown yourself in perfume and all that. Get up. What if you could tolerate a bit less of that and see how things go? What if you could tolerate your body being seen, your unfit, slightly overweight body that you've been hiding it away? What if you could just tolerate that a little bit? Not a whole lot in one go. Don't do it all in one go. You'll freak yourself out. What about... what else could you do? What if you could be the person at work that doesn't know the answer? Just doesn't know. I just don't know. What if you could be the person who just doesn't actually care about anyone today, just feel a bit selfish? How can we open up to experience more rather than a restricted idea about ourselves? Why do we have to be one thing? Why can't we be lots of things? Okay, so this is it, listeners. This is the end of the dialogue. Just wanted to flag, you might say, a little bit about how our concepts shape our emotional landscape. Oh, good term, Winterview, good term. Emotional landscape. Hope there was something of value in there for the seeker out there who might have been feeling a little bit sorry for themselves, or wondering how they can feel a little bit better about the misery of the search. And it is a misery, I can assure you. Thanks for listening, and as usual, thank you. Comments are welcome.